how I ended up. That is how I ended up seeing rheumatology patients right from day one. Believe me, my perception to begin with was arthritis is something that never improves. We would be probably having arthritis pain in our patients throughout the life without any resolution. That is what I had entered the hospital with in my post graduation. But lo and behold, as I went through the 6 months, 1 year under my teacher in rheumatology, that is when I realized that there is so much to do in rheumatology. In fact, patients, many of these patients, as you all would know, many of these warriors, in fact, I don't even like the term patients. I always end up, I like the term warriors more than patients. So I would keep saying warriors. So most of the warriors, as all of you would know, are in their young age group, the prime of their life. So in that age group, when somebody is afflicted with pain that is chronic, that is debilitating, something that disturbs their entire life, not just personal life, family life, social life, their professional life, and then with medicines, you get them back to normal state, and the joy that you can see in their eyes, their families' eyes, that is what really pushed me into rheumatology. That is how I ended up being a rheumatologist. Absolutely, frankly speaking, this is how it ended up.
And I think being a rheumatologist is a bit like being a private investigator, because it's not, I mean, you can't just see a patient, especially an AXPAR patient. You can't just look at them and say, you've got AXPAR. It takes a long investigation to get to the answer.
Yes, at times it is like Sherlock Holmes. At times it is straight away, you see the patient, you know what he's suffering from, you just get the confirmatory test done and you're through. But so many times, particularly in early patients, it can be something like a Sherlock Holmes story. You really have to you have to sit with them, get those small things that they would tell you as they have gone on their journey with pain. And that is where you pick up those clues, get the right investigations done, and get to the diagnosis. As all of you would know, in rheumatology, what has happened over last 2 decades is we have shifted gears from just diagnosing patients who are obviously having some ailment or arthritis to picking them as early as possible when the diagnosis is not that evident. This is what has changed in last 2 decades, and this is what picking up those small things, small trivial things that the patients, the warriors would tell, and get the right investigation to catch them early, catch the disease early, catch the ailment early, and ensure that it goes into remission as early as possible. The same holds true for AXPA as well. The same story as it is across the globe. We have a long latency to diagnosis, 7 to 8 years. This is something that exists globally, something that happens in India as well. India is no exception. And that is where this, as I said, Sherlock Holmes, like getting small things done, getting the right investigation counts.
And what is the process? I'm not thinking I'm going to be doing a comparison now between what happens in our country and your country. I mean, obviously, you had the delay in diagnosis is a huge concern for globally. I know you work with us with ASIF, and we all feel very strongly about the delay in diagnosis. What do you think in your country particularly are the biggest factors that's causing this delay?
First of all, India has two systems of healthcare. One is the government system, and second is the private system. In fact, to some extent, if you look at it, the private system is much bigger than the government system. The government, there is no free healthcare for all. The government does provide to whoever comes to the government hospital, the government setup, the government does provide free healthcare, but government infrastructure is really limited. So we have majority of the people going to private healthcare for their needs. So what happens in majority of the patients when they have backache is first they'll approach their general physician. I'm sure this is what happens otherwise also. At the general physician level, somehow the level of knowledge, information about AXPA is not all that up to date. If you ask me, at the end of the day, we are at fault. As rheumatologists, we are at fault. We have not been able to imbibe that much of information down the line. So as of now, as things stand, Backache is a common symptom for most general physicians. It's a common thing. So many people come to them with backache. Out of many people, it will be only that one or two people would have really axpa. So many times they keep on treating with NSAIDs. So many times the diagnosis is just missed there. They keep thinking that this is, the routine diagnosis, the routine backache that all people have, mechanical type of backache. And in ladies in particular, so many times this gets blamed on for household work, exertion, all those things, to some extent in so many as psychosomatic as well. So at the general physician level, so many times the diagnosis is missed. Things are changing now. There are many physicians, many general practitioners who are, we are trying to reach out to them. So things are changing at the general practitioner level. They have started picking up axpa early. See, somebody who has ankylosing spondylitis, somebody who has hunchback deformity, somebody who comes like this to the clinic, that is something that won't be missed. They'll pick it up at that stage that this is ankylosing spondylitis. But somebody coming with very early symptoms, axpa, so many times it is missed. If that is missed there, then people move on to either a physician who's MD physician, the physician part side, or an orthopedic surgeon. Again, at the physician level, so many times the diagnosis is missed. It's still not up to mark there as well. At the orthopedician level, many a times the diagnosis is definitely made. They get an HLA B27 done. With the positive HLA B27, many of the orthopedicians will straight away tell that this is probably early ankylosing spondylitis or axpa. One more thing, ankylosing spondylitis is widely known, but axpa still, most of the physicians, most of the orthopedic surgeons still not aware of the term of axial spondyloarthritis or axpa. So they would still keep calling it as ankylosing. That apart, they would diagnose it at that stage. The biggest problem at that stage is the perceptions haven't really changed. So they feel ankylosing spondylitis, there is no treatment. So this person is going to end up with a bamboo spine. So majority of the orthopedicians just consider it as sort of a waste paper basket diagnosis. So diagnose it, and so many times they straight away tell the warriors that there is no treatment. This is going to end up eventually as bamboo spine. They are eventually going to have a bad hip, which may require an operation. So what happens for warriors? Frankly, this is a bad thing for warriors. When they hear this from an orthopedic surgeon, obviously many of them believe that there is no treatment apart from what the orthopedic is telling. So I know so many warriors who have even contemplated suicide at this stage, thinking that there is no treatment, this is a dead end, there is nothing that can happen to me. Now, a few of them then end up with a rheumatologist. We have quite a few rheumatologists, but there is a shortage, as it is globally. India is no exception here. We do have a big shortage of rheumatologists. Appointments still are pent up for 1.5 to 2 months for a new patient in many of the cities. At least big cities have good number of rheumatologists. Smaller cities, interiors still don't have so many rheumatologists. So it's such a long wait. It's sad, but things are changing. That's the ray of hope that we have. Things are changing at the rheumatology level. Many hospitals are now providing rheumatology courses. The number of rheumatologists coming into the field every year is increasing. So next 10 years should definitely, we should have a big change, a sea change. And with our efforts, as the number of rheumatologists improve, the awareness levels among the general population, among the physician, among the orthopedic surgeons also improves, obviously. So we should have a sea change in next 10 years. I'm definitely hopeful for that.
Yeah, 100%. That's such a positive message. What I picked up in your comments is I think the emotional journey of an AXPAR patient is often misunderstood because certainly in our country, by the time that the patient arrives at the rheumatologist, 8 to 10 years could have passed. They would have probably already seen a neurosurgeon. They would have maybe had surgeries they didn't need. They would have been on a string of medications they didn't need. Or even worse is some of our patients are being told that there's nothing wrong with them. They need to go and see a psychiatrist. And that's for me is the saddest part, is the validation initially that that fatigues the patient before the that run up to it. It's almost like you're exhausted before you've even started to do the marathon. So I was interested to ask you what you thought the impact, the emotional impact is, particularly on axSpA patients that we wait so long to get diagnosed.
Absolutely. Just you hit the nail right on the head. It's a big toll. Apart from the pain that one has, this is a big toll that takes the emotional component of the entire thing. See, always when I speak to my colleagues, I always say, put yourself in the feet or in the shoes of a axSpA patient and think about it. You have back pain. Back pain is debilitating. It is there for years together. You can't go to office so many times because of pain. People don't tend to understand. For a typical axSpA patient, nothing is seen outside. There is no joint that is visibly inflamed. You don't see any rash anywhere. You don't see those swollen joints that a rheumatoid arthritis patients would show. For rheumatoid arthritis and other arthritis, things are visible. A person can see and understand, that there is something wrong. I should, help this person. I should, do something for this because something is visible, something is seen. For axSpA, the big problem is things are not visible. The pain is definitely there, disability is there, but then it's not visible. And unless you get a diagnosis, a person, a warrior himself is still not sure as to what is happening. He keeps wondering as to what is happening. He keeps on having pain. Nobody is able to explain the pain. And as you rightly said, there are so many who would even call this psychosomatic. In India, access to MRI is not a big issue. It is done. But what happens in majority of the patients, MRI of the lumbosacral spine is done. MRI of the sacroiliac joints is not done. So what happens is they have persistent gluteal buttock pain. There's so many of them, on the MRI of LS spine, everything turns out to be normal. So they are told, see, even your MRI is done, there is nothing wrong, probably it is psychosomatic. So it's a difficult time. And believe me, something that I have been saying in ASID meetings also, it is actually a shame on the medical professionals, shame on the society if somebody has to suffer for 8 years, 10 years without a diagnosis in today's world. Hope we improve that as early as possible. That's where all our efforts are directed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why you and I are advocating, we are having this conversation, because globally we are so serious about this delay in diagnosis and what can be done across the continent, for everybody involved. That is so true what you're saying. I think the MRI scans, that's a problem in South Africa. It's also not the right MRI. Well, in South Africa, it's so expensive to get MRI scanning done that the chances that you can even afford to get the scans done, because as you know, our state medical aid is not as great as everywhere else. So that is a huge dilemma, not getting the right, not being able to use the tools that you need to get to a diagnosis, which makes it difficult.
Thankfully, we are better off in India. It's expensive. It's not that inexpensive. It is expensive, but it is still within the reach. We still are able to manage MRIs in most of our patients. It's not that bad. And government, if you send the patient to a government setup, it is done for free. So that's why MRI, definitely it's expensive, but not that expensive that we can't manage in most of our patients. We are lucky that way. One more thing that has been happening, something that you said, the emotional journey, something that reminds me, something that has been happening off late with most of our warriors. See, maybe a warrior sees me, gets a diagnosis. For him, it is bliss. At least there is something that is there. Diagnosis is there, and obviously he, when a warrior speaks to me or any other rheumatologist, he also gets that ray of hope that there is proper treatment for this, and this is something that can improve. So that step one done. Beyond that, what happens is, so many times warriors then turn to other things for information. Then they latch on to social media, multiple Facebook groups. It's a good thing. What happens on the net is something I'm absolutely proactive. I'm very pro about it. Patients should be using, warriors should be using the internet for information. But what is happening in recent times in the social media groups? If you look at multiple Facebook groups, see what happens. is if you look at most of the groups, if you just enter the group as a newbie, what you get to see most of the times is all negative things about ankylosing spondylitis or axpa. What happens, this as I perceive, it's a natural phenomenon, it's a human tendency. Axpa warriors who do well don't post their good things on the internet. They don't post that I have taken so and so treatment, I have done well, this is, see, this is what has happened over the period of years. Those who are not settling for various reasons, those who are getting side effects of various medicines, they keep on posting. Those with axpa plus fibromyalgia, they keep posting. That's a probably a place where they can vent out their frustration. So many times what happens is many of these groups will have more negative comments rather than positive comments. So something that I have been asking everybody and the viewers as well, post your positive experience as well. For those who have done well, it is your duty to help those who are not doing well. If you don't post your positive experiences, those who are not doing well will never feel that this is going to improve. When a new person enters a Facebook group, so many times, this obviously does not apply to all the groups, but so many groups, what happens is they keep on saying, seeing warriors who have written, my expa is just not improving, last 10 years things are bad, I'm trying this, I've tried that, I have tried that. So negative comments, negative posts are frankly more than the positive posts. But in real life, if you see, patients or warriors who have done well will outnumber the warriors who have not done well. So even when it comes to Facebook posts or WhatsApp groups, I request all the expa warriors who are doing well to post their experiences and motivate those who are not doing well. I feel it's your duty. If somebody would have helped you when you were in a bad stage, I'm sure you would then realize how important it is. If you were just starting onto this journey, you have just got a diagnosis, you have been started with some treatment, that is the time if somebody would hold your hand and tell you this is how you go about on this journey, this is how you can conquer ankylosing spondylitis. Look at me, I have gone through this and I have conquered it. I'm sure you will realize how important it is. And cheers to Miranda. She has been doing all this. I have been seeing in the group. But I would like everybody to do it. We have so many members. So many should be doing it.
Yeah, 100% right, and there is a saying I think of, it's like you are what you feed on, that kind of setup. And what we've also found is obviously keep an eye on a lot of the expo groups across, all mediums so we can stay on top of the information. But I think the important part is that you need to belong to a group that's giving you the correct information and that's validated. And I think the second thing is that it needs to be a positive setting. A lot of these groups are like, I can't almost even read there anymore because it's just a constant battle. And like you say, you never really hear the good stories, and there are a lot of good stories. And I think that's what patients that are freshly diagnosed don't really realize is that, after the burden of the 8 years or the 10 years, then they get diagnosed, then they fall into a big black hole. And I think that's normal. I think when you get diagnosed and the shock and all of that, you got to give yourself that time to not feel great. And then once you wrap your head around it and you understand how your medication works, and I mean, you could comment maybe on this. Treatment is not always so straightforward. So even if a patient walks away with you've given them a little script and you say, there you go, it doesn't mean that all the medication you've given them is going to work the first time. You might need to change your script 3 or 4 times to get to the right solution. So there's also a certain amount of patience that's required in the treatment of it.
Absolutely. No two warriors are the same. No two warriors will settle with the same sort of recipe that we have for warriors. So everybody is different. Somebody may take less time, somebody may take a longer time. To add on, somebody would have that emotional burden to carry that has to be unloaded. It's not just the physical thing. Somebody may not be liking to do exercises on a regular basis. So once you start with the basic things, everybody is different. You have to understand, accept that everybody is different, and we treat accordingly. And even for a warrior, if you're newly diagnosed, frankly, don't get into the panic mode once you get a diagnosis. Just hang on. You can always take your own time, relax. It's okay to be not doing well for some period of time. I'm sure things will improve. And most importantly, whatever is there in your mind, your physical problems, as well as whatever is running in your mind. You have doubts about this medicine, doubts about that, whatever is running in your mind, make a note of it. So whenever you see your rheumatologist, ensure that all those things are cleared. That would take care of not just of your physical pain, but so much of your emotional burden. Believe me. So you should keep that. I always, I'm fond of that. Keep a list of what you have to ask and whatever doubts you have to get clarified.
100% right. And what is the advice that you would give to a patient? I'm asking specifically this to you because we've just had, I don't know how many, as you can see, our patients are rolling in every day. We've got more new patients that's been diagnosed. So other than the medical script that they walk away, I mean, obviously they're going to have a treatment plan that they're working together with a rheumatologist on. What would be other pieces of advice? I mean, you've been working with X4 patients all your life. What are those little golden secrets? That's what I'm looking for.
See, first and foremost, believe and accept that you can conquer ankylosing spondylitis. First and foremost, nothing will change unless you do that. So believe me, you can conquer ankylosing spondylitis or axpa. If so many people, so many warriors are doing well, why not you? So you should be in a position to really conquer axpa. Secondly, it's not just medicines. Medicines is just a small part of the entire story. So if I have to look at the entire thing, it is MED, medicines, second exercises, and third diet. Diet, it's a sort of a gray area. Most of the rheumatologists don't believe that diet plays a role. Why does that happen? In our curriculum, we are never, sort of taught that diet will have such a big role to play. And we tend to believe on evidence. You show us the studies, we'll definitely accept because there are studies to show this. As far as diet is concerned, it is difficult to carry out diet related studies. And secondly, for the pharma, there is nothing in a diet related study wherein they can sponsor the study and recruit a lot of people. So diet related evidence would always remain patchy. In fact, when I trained, I got into a clinic as a trained rheumatologist. I was somebody who didn't really believe in diet, low starch diet as something for axpa. But get into these groups, get into patients, listen to so many warriors, and then I started believing. Then I started, helping my warriors with the diet, and I could see the results. So it is not just medication. See, diet need not help each and every person, but you can always give it a try. If it works, continue. If it doesn't work, if it doesn't suit or doesn't work, forget about it. So medicine, exercise, exercise is as effective as medicines as far as exercise is concerned. So exercise absolutely important. You can't win this battle or war without exercises, regular exercises. Thirdly, obviously, as I said, diet. There are many warriors who fall into the trap of I will do only this and I'm sure things will settle. So don't get into the trap of I'll only exercise and I feel that things should settle down fully, or I'll only get into latch on to low starch diet and I'm sure my ankylosing will go away. No, you have three good options available. Might make the best use of all three options. Why not? So medicines, exercise, diet. Third, second, so many times what happens after a few years, some of warriors, quite a few warriors tend to go on an autopilot mode. What do I mean by autopilot mode? They know their body, they know their pain, they know what increases the pain, decreases the pain. They stop seeing a rheumatologist so many times and they go on an autopilot mode. Don't get into that. See, even for the best team in the world, there is always a coach. So let somebody take care of you. He has a different sort of a vision as compared to what a warrior would be having. So be under supervision of a rheumatologist so you don't end up into any problems. Lastly, a few other things which are underplayed, which so many times warrior think that they don't really matter. One is stress, very, very important. Whatever goes on in the mind gets reflected in some form or the other in the body. So one stress about ankylosing spondylitis, stress about other things or anxious nature definitely tends to affect the outcome. Smoking, something that has been proven to reduce response to medicines and also increase the progression in AS. Secondly, too much of workload, too much of exertion, running around throughout the day, short sleep, 5 hours sleep, 5.5 hours sleep, type A personality. So that is something that can definitely affect your chances of winning this ankylosing spondylitis, the entire war. And lastly, don't underestimate the power of positive thinking. So all this plus the power of positive thinking, I'm sure it works wonders. Uh, I'm not sure how many of you must have heard about the law of attraction, but definitely it's not just the positive thinking and nothing else. You put all these together plus the positive thinking, keep telling yourself on a daily basis, whenever you get up in the morning, hold your head high, keep your chin up, keep your chest tight, and tell yourself, I am going to win this battle today or tomorrow, whatever it takes to ensure that I win this war. I am going to do it. Believe me, you'll see the results in a short time.
That's such great words from you, and I like the way that you confirm that treating Axpo is holistic and that it requires a lot of experimenting, and patients shouldn't be scared to experiment. Listen, I'm not sure if you yourself need to experiment with your medication. That's something you do with your doctor, but everything else should be on the cards, meaning that exercise for me is not a negotiation. It happens every day. But as you said, one shouldn't be scared to try different diets, eliminate different food items. A lot of our patients do use specific diets and it works wonders for them. So one mustn't be scared. I think in the society we live in that's got a lot of information, you can use the information in a negative sense, which means if you are looking at the wrong sources and you're looking at constant negativity and that's bad. But if you can use the information positively for yourself, so you can research what is good anti-inflammatory eating patterns and maybe try it and see if it works for you, then that becomes a positive outcome.
Absolutely. You should be open to experimentation. See, in fact, what I would say is apart from the medicine exercise, one, know and understand your body, know and understand your ailment. What triggers it, what ensures that it settles is something that you would be able to make out. Your rheumatologist may not be able to tell you. This is a very, very, very subjective sort of thing. See, something may be triggering actions by one particular warrior that need not apply to the second warrior. So one, apart from the medicines, exercise, you should try and understand your body, try and understand your ankylosing spondylitis or axpa. Second, be open to experimentation. As Miranda said, you can try different diets, but then be ready to analyze. Don't just go for the sake of it, trying this thing, then trying something else, then trying something else. Analyze whether there is any difference with that. Note down these things, maybe even discuss with your rheumatologist. Uh, Sadly, somehow all the rheumatologists may not be open to discussion about diet, but you can always inform the rheumatologist that this is something that I've tried and this is something that these are the results. So whatever works, you can definitely stick on. Lastly, when it comes to diet, maybe if you are planning to continue a particular diet in the long run, take the help of a dietitian as well. When you stick to a particular diet, it may so happen that you may become, the diet may be deficient in a particular, in a group of nutrients. So you can always take help of a dietitian, a professional dietitian, to help you ensure that everything falls in place. You don't end up with deficiencies of certain nutrients. And one more thing here is, so many times it's very common, it's not even so many times, very common, that somehow warriors, you know, they don't tend to think beyond their ailment. So many times when a new warrior comes to my clinic, he wouldn't even, introduce me by his name. He would say, I am suffering from ankylosing spondylitis, doctor, tell me how to go about it. It's not even I am so and so. So life is much bigger than the ailment that you're having. Believe me, let it be a small part of your life, not your entire life. You miss out on so many other things. If you consider axpa as your entire life, your life is much bigger than that. You have so many other things to do, and it's not just axpa. So ensure that you conquer axpa and keep it in a small place. Not your, it shouldn't shadow your entire life that way.
You know, that's one of my favorite sayings too. I believe that you can't focus. If every day you wake up and that's all you're thinking and focusing about, it does take over unnecessary space in your life of things that you can do better. What do you think the role is with your patient support groups in Expo? Maybe we can talk about what happens in India. I'm interested to know, and maybe get your take also on what is the role of a, why is it important for a patient to belong to a patient support group?
India, somehow we don't have many patient support groups in most of the ailments. As far as ankylosing spondylitis or axpa is concerned, we now have 4 groups. That's a recent development. I have my own group, Stand for AS. We have one more group called as Antardhwani. We have ASWS, Ankylosing Spondylitis Welfare Society. So things have been changing in recent times. There have been major changes, but for years together, and overall also, if you look at it, somehow India lacks good patient support groups. Why do we need patient support groups? What would you achieve if you are a warrior? What would you achieve by really, getting into a patient group? See, if you are having axpa, suppose, how many people in your vicinity would really understand your pain? As I said, most of it is not even visible. There are people who would be saying, by the way, you don't look that sick. What is really happening? So how many people that you know really understand your pain, really resonate, or go along with what you're suffering? So if you are in a group, one, you would realize that, one, you are not alone. There are so many others who are suffering from this. Secondly, something that is very important, there are so many who have taken the same path that you are taking today. So they can help you with whatever mistakes they did, so that you don't suffer the way they suffered. And they can tell you the tips and tricks of the trade, how they managed through the problems. And believe me, this is something that I am in multiple patient support groups purely to understand what is the chatter among the warriors. See, when I sit on this side of the table, so many times I don't understand what is happening at a personal level on the other side of the table. What a warrior tells me, probably this is what would be going on, and this is the information that I would be getting. So to get that amount of information, for you as a warrior, if you are in a patient group, you'll have so many good things to understand, good things to learn, tips and tricks to take care of your axpa. Believe me, it would work wonders. Only thing, you should be part of a positive group, not a negative group.
100% right. No, an informed patient is a patient that does much better with their life in general, I think, if you have the information. I remember when I got diagnosed, I couldn't even, I still think I can't spell the disease, to be honest with you, because it's a complicated word and it's a complicated disease. And as you say, it's invisible. And I think that's what people find baffling. They will look at me and they'll go, but look at you. You look fine. You doing everything fine. What's wrong with you? And that's what's difficult about the disease, that you can't see it. And people think they can't see it, it's not real.
Two more things I would like to say. One is fatigue of ankylosing spondylitis. How many do you think around you can understand that fatigue? So if you're in a group, you'll have so many people who can, really understand what you're going through. They can help you. Something like fatigue of ankylosing, you would have other warriors telling you how to go about it. Have you heard about the spoon theory? Sorry. You count the number of spoons in the morning. If viewers are not aware, this was given by, I forgot, she is a lupus advocate. I forgot her name. She has come up with this spoon theory. When you get up in the morning, see the amount of work that you can do, amount of running around that you can do is based on your fatigue and your arthritis pain. So when you get up in the morning, suppose you are given 10 spoons, you have to decide how to manage those 10 spoons and all your work through the day. So this is what spoon theory is. When you get up in the morning, you have to space out your work properly, ensure that you don't get into fatigue mode through the day. So you space out your work. This is one. Something else that you said, but you don't really look that sick. That is something that keeps happening on a regular time. So getting into a group really takes care of these issues, something that nobody else would really understand to that extent.
Yeah, 100%. I'm so excited that we could have a chat. You know, there's nothing that I love more than talking about Expo, and for us having you all the way from Mumbai, and you've just always been so interested in our patient support group, and we've collaborated now on the delay in diagnosis campaign, which I think touched millions of people across the world. And I certainly hope that we will collaborate more in the future and stay in constant touch, because there's a lot of power in, you know, putting everybody's heads together and coming up with some amazing Expo solutions.
Definitely.
So I want to wish you well, and I want to just thank you. I mean, I know you also keep a bit of an eye, and I see sometimes you give a bit of advice. That's wonderful. I know as a rheumatologist, you don't always want to get into online consulting, and I totally understand that. But I also know that if I had any rheumatology questions, I could just pop you a message and you would, you know, assist me. So that's wonderful. Thank you for caring about our South African group all the way out of Mumbai. That's wonderful.
Thank you very much.
And we hope to chat to you very soon again.
Definitely. My pleasure.
Okie dokie. Well, on all the listeners at home today, if you're going to listen to this evening after work, you'll take the time to listen to this recording, and we are privileged to belong to a global community, and we are privileged to have a doctor all the way from Mumbai to chat to us about Expo. And I hope that you find some words of wisdom out of this video and you're inspired, and you manage your spoons every day. Everybody keep well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doctor.